people are proud to be citizens of this beautiful country of ours, the stripes and the stars, for the rights that men have died to protect, the women and men who have broke their necks for freedom of speech the United States government has sworn to uphold, or so we're told. Yes, that is a lyric from a rap song. No, I have not suddenly become a beat poet. And if it makes you uncomfortable to know that I am reciting a rap, maybe don't listen to this sermon. Resistance, by design, will make many of us uncomfortable. And so it is with music as resistance. The lines I just read started the rap, and one stanza in, we've been told what to listen for. Infringements on the freedom of speech. Listen again with me. White America, I could be one of your kids. White America, little Eric looks just like this. White America, Erica loves I go on TRL, look how many hugs I get. Look at these eyes, baby blue, baby just like yourself. If they were brown, Shady'd lose. Shady sits on the shelf, but Shady's cute. Shady knew Shady's dimples would help make Lady swoon, baby. Ooh, baby, look at my sails. 2 stanzas in, and we have met the lyricist. We know his gender, his race, his profession, and his audience, on which he elaborates next. Check out these quotes. See, the problem is I speak to suburban kids, and they connected with me too because I look like them. Surely hip-hop was never a problem in Harlem, only in Boston after it bothered the fathers of daughters starting to blossom. Ooh, child. And then this rapper starts naming names, Lynn Chaney and Tipper Gore, who want to institute parental advisory stickers on his music. He calls us the democracy of hypocrisy, the divided states of embarrassment. Whose song am I reading? Eminem. Did you expect to hear a preacher quote Eminem from the pulpit? Here's the thing though. When Eminem performed this song at the MTV Music Video Awards in 2002, he was battling allegations from parents and politicians that he had influenced criminal behavior on white young Americans. So yeah, he called them out for trying to censor him and for denying a musician freedom of speech. But more importantly, he calls them out for being racist. The pivotal line that makes this song so profound is, surely hip-hop was never a problem in Harlem, only in Boston. Do you see? Do you see how he has turned the eye of the accuser back on themselves? Why did politicians not try to censor rappers and sue hip-hop artists before Eminem? Because rap is traditionally a black genre of music, and Eminem was white. And lots of white kids listened to him. And so rap quickly found itself blaring from the bedrooms of traditional white households. And suddenly, it became important to care about what rappers were saying. Unfortunately, the label of divided states of embarrassment still rings true. And 23 years later, Eminem continues to use music to address what he perceives as the brainwashing of the white middle class by a racist, fascist billionaire. No wonder the empire tried to silence Eminem. You know who else we tried to silence? This time the oppressors weren't the prissy white politicians trying to control musicians, but rather the good old boys, the radio stations, even Lipton tea representatives who got a bee in their bonnet and went in for the kill. The resistant comments in question were offhandedly offered at a country music concert performed by 3 women and their band. And the country went crazy. We tried to cancel them before cancel culture was even a thing. In response, the women wrote a song about what happened to them, like all great musicians do. Listen to these lyrics. It's a sad, sad story when a mother will teach her daughter that she ought to hate a perfect stranger. And how in the world can the words that I said send somebody so over the edge that they'd write me a letter saying that I better shut up and sing or my life will be over? Sing along if you know it. I'm not ready to make nice. I'm not ready to back down. I'm still mad as hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to make it right. I probably wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm mad as hell and can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should. What it is you think I should. Of course, I am speaking of the Dixie Chicks, who spoke out in 2003 about then President George Bush. And in response, radio station put out dumpsters by their buildings for Americans to bring their Dixie Chicks CDs to and throw them away. Unless you think this is an isolated incident involving three Texans who unfortunately happen to be liberal, Taylor Swift, a lifelong Chicks fan, cited her fear of getting Dixie chicked as the reason why she remained politically reticent, a good girl, even past the 2016 election. Even the almighty Dolly Parton has invoked the incident as a reason to placate rather than provoke. She writes, "Of course I have my opinions about everything. But I learned years ago to keep my mouth shut about things. I saw what happened to the Dixie Chicks." Fast forward 17 years and the ladies who refused to shut up and sing responded to the Black Lives Matter movement and George Floyd by officially changing their name to The Chicks, dropping Dixie, a word that romanticizes the Confederacy. In addition, the Chicks published their saltiest album ever titled Gaslighter. If you remember the play from the 1938 play by Patrick Hamilton out of Britain, you'll know that gaslighting is to trick or control someone by making them believe that their memories or beliefs about something are wrong. The title of their album, while literally about Natalie Maines' husband gaslighting her while he was having an affair, contained not so subtle tones of resistance to President Trump's gaslighting of the American people about his own sexual indiscretions, rape, abuse, and bribery. In addition to gaslighting citizens about COVID, the elections, Muslims, the Black community, Russians, and even Ruth Bader Ginsburg, saying that her dying wishes had been forged by Nancy Pelosi. Gaslighter, denier, doing anything to get yourself farther. Trump took himself so far as to become president a second time. And arguably more blasphemous than that, he made himself chair of the Kennedy Center. And the gays and thespians are aghast. And of course, one of the first performances to be canceled by the new board was the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, who were collaborating with the National Symphony Orchestra to perform a musical arrangement of the children's book, A Peacock Among Pigeons. God forbid we read, especially children's books, because children who read might grow up to sing. The Gay Men's Chorus of Washington released the following statement in response to their show being canceled. "We will continue to advocate for artistic expression that reflects the depth and diversity of our community and country. While we are saddened by the decision, we are committed to this work and to our mission of raising our voices for equality for all." But music as resistance is not new. It goes back before the Gay Men's Chorus and the Chicks, back before Eminem, before the songs protesting war in the 60s and 70s, before the gospel sung to raise money for Dr. King and to promote civil rights in the 50s, before the suffragettes in the 1880s launched what would end up being a 40-year musical strategy of rewording familiar tunes to advocate for women to have voting rights. Some of the earliest songs of resistance here in the United States of America came from the Africans who we stole from their homeland and brought here as slaves. Some of their songs Africanized Christian theology through music to provide comfort to the people. Because, let truth be told, as was said here a few weeks ago, offering hope is an act of resistance. But other songs, or spirituals as they came to be called, offered not just hope, but a tangible path to freedom. Abolitionist and former slave Frederick Douglass wrote in 1855, "A keen observer might have detected in our repeated singing of O Canaan, sweet Canaan, I am bound for the land of Canaan, something more than a hope of reaching heaven. We meant to reach the north, and the north was our Canaan." Spirituals were used to direct slaves when to leave, where to travel, and to convey messages from abolitionists like Harriet Tubman. In fact, some African Americans who associated the spirituals with slavery were not enthusiastic about continuing the tradition of singing spirituals post-war. However, the former slaves attending Nashville's Fisk University persuaded many that it should be continued. They called themselves the Jubilee Singers, and they performed spirituals around the United States and Europe. They were so popular that choirs started to emulate the Jubilee Singers, giving birth to a concert hall tradition of performing spirituals that has remained strong to this day. But go back even further with me. Let's leave the United States in the 19th century and head back to the Middle East, a la 500 BCE. Let's look at the Hebrew scriptures where we read of King David playing instruments, singing, and dancing in the streets. Now, where would King David rank in my list of top 10 of the greatest people in the Bible? Like -4. He's not on the list. But in this story, I read something different about David. Admittedly, he is still a wishy-washy character. He's afraid of the ark and sends it away. Then he hears the benefits of the ark and brings it back. Now, the ark contained the stones of the covenant God made with the Hebrew people. And God's voice was heard by Moses coming from the ark in between where the two cherubim sat on top of it. And both times David accompanies the ark of God, he makes music. Some join in, others do not. Alas, loud sounds of joy, i.e. singing with hope, singing of freedom and proclaiming that God is in our midst, will never be universally accepted, especially by the empire. And Michal, the daughter of the late King Saul, did not approve. This story is fascinating on many levels, and full disclosure, my take of the story today may not be my take of the story tomorrow. It is a rare moment when I trust David's intentions. Because Michal and David have a long history. She's not just his wife or King Saul's daughter. She loved David. She is the reason David escaped King Saul and that the insurrection succeeded. But as it is with politics, relationships are reevaluated, people get traded, and new alliances are formed. As such, Michal ends up discarded and ultimately married to another man. By the time the now King David remembers she's still his wife, her current husband has fallen in love with her. And when she is taken away from him, the scripture says he weeps. Of course, we never hear Michal's version of that story. At this point, all we read is that from the window of the castle, as she watched God's covenant, God's presence returned to the city with an orchestra of sound and movement surrounding it. She despises the scene and proves especially critical of the lead tenor. Traditionally, in my own act of resistance, I would offer a feminist interpretation of this scripture, but today I want to focus on King David instead. On King David, who finally gets it together. On King David, who is motivated by greed and lust and political ambitions, but who has the excitement of a child in this moment in God's presence. That little kid with the slingshot sings. And in this instance, it is the person in the window watching the Jubilee from afar who represents the empire. In fact, she shames David for singing and dancing and for the clothes he wore or didn't wear. And if I suspend my disbelief enough to see David as a giddy little child dancing in the presence of the Lord, then I must suspend it enough to recognize that his angry ex-wife got it wrong. This moment called for a song. That ark, like God, has a mind of its own. It kills without context. The good guys and the bad guys. Remember poor Uzzah who reached out to study it? But David's singing and dancing and the long list of instruments being played, it's not indulgent. It's not Coachella, Lollapalooza, Bonnaroo, or ACL. No one's getting high, swaying to the music, and then paying a pedicab driver to drive them home. When David finishes his song and dance, he does something else. The text says, he distributed food among all the people, the whole multitude of Israel, both men and women, to each a cake of bread, a portion of meat, and a cake of raisins. The song ends with justice, with not just a meal for the politicians or the religious leaders or the friends of the throne, but for everyone. Even the women get a shout out. So for me, this musical moment in the Bible is an act of resistance. It is a song sung by a flawed leader and a flawed people, but the presence of God is with them, and there is a moment of equanimity, and everyone literally and metaphorically feasts in the presence of God. Music has always been with us. Before there was radio, vinyl, cassette tapes, Walkmans, boom boxes, I 100% got one of those for my 12th birthday. CDs, MP3 players, Napster, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Commercials use music jingles with the intention of helping you remember a product. And boy, does that ever work. Even my 2-year-old son knew that na 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 meant that Grandpa was watching Jeopardy. Anthems of political leaders, sports teams, communities, and countries ring out while flags blow in the same wind that ushers those sound waves along. Those of us who used to make mixtapes now make playlists for road trips or to help us get over an ex-girlfriend or to play while running or working out. Playlists for motivation, encouragement, hope, gratitude, or even working out our anger. 2 University of Central Florida professors, a neuroscientist and a world-renowned violinist, have been teaching a popular course, Music and the Brain, exploring how music impacts brain function and human behavior. And even a brief time spent reading a few medical articles brought forth this list of how music affects people. Music changes our ability to perceive time, reduces seizures, boosts immune systems, evokes memories, improves verbal fluency, executive function, and episodic memory. It increases white matter integrity in the brain, enhances auditory motor integration. It improves coordination, increases alertness, and stimulates neuroplasticity. I had to look that one up, and it means the brain's ability to change and adapt to new experiences. Music slows aging in the brain, i.e. brain characteristics appear younger in musicians than their actual age, which is clearly how I only turned 24 years old last month. Music's effects on the brain can become addictive, acting on the same parts of the brain as drugs. Music encourages the brain to release endorphins, improves psychological well-being, reduces symptoms of agitation, anxiety, and depression, increases blood flow through the body. And music therapy can help patients recover the ability to speak. And you wonder why what kind of music played in worship can be so divisive in church. Why churches offer two services, one with traditional hymns and one with contemporary songs. Why people leave one church and attend another church because they like the music more. It's not a petty issue that everyone foolishly makes a fuss over. Music literally changes human brains and bodies. Of course, music in worship matters. These are the anthems of our resistance, our songs of hope, our lamentations. Music is a coping mechanism capable of changing the world. I performed in a musical called Ragtime. The first day of rehearsals, the director told us of a story about a man who attended Ragtime at another theater, and when he came out afterwards, he said, "I never knew I was racist until I saw this musical." Music changes people. It is an art form that can teach resistance in a way that a lecture or a sermon like this one or a textbook never will. You want to be subversive? Teach a child how to sing. You want to offer healing in a country that refuses universal health care to its population? Sing to an Alzheimer's patient. Play music for someone with Parkinson's. Gift concert tickets to someone with depression. You want to connect with someone from another culture? Listen to their music. Learn to sing a song in their native tongue. You want to connect with your kid or grandkid? Make them a playlist of your favorite songs of resistance from when you were young. You want to understand Black women in America? Listen to Beyonce's Cowboy Carter CD, and then do your research on what the songs mean. I could have preached an entire sermon just on that album. Music as resistance serves to educate the community subversively and overtly. Music literally makes the community smarter and physically stronger. Music is resistance because when the government is trying to tell you what to believe, they can't take away the anthems ringing in your head. Music is social justice when it inspires us to offer equanimity to all. Go out and tell our stories to our daughters and our sons, the lyricist of Ragtime writes. Your sword can be a sermon or the power of a pen. Teach every child to raise their voice, and then, my brothers, then will justice be demanded by 10 million righteous men. Make them hear you. When they hear you, I'll be near you.